Hello, I am Dr. LaDonna Osborn. Welcome to 2024. This is a new year. And just as a reminder, last year, all through 2023, every month we were posting a video segment about my father's life, Dr. T.L. Osborn. We felt it was important to take the 100-year milestone, 100 years of his life, ministry, influence, and just discuss a few things that are appropriate for our lives. And throughout the year, I told you that we would do the same thing in 2024. My mother, Dr. Daisy Washburn Osborn, was born on September 23rd, 1924. And her story has not really been told. We know the story of my father, and we know the story of their lives together, particularly their ministry lives together. They were the duo ministry team known as the Unbeatable Husband-WIFE Team. And so everything that has been recorded about really him and then also her has been from that duo perspective. But it has been in my heart to just take this year, the year that she would have turned 100 years old, and discuss with you a few things from her life that are significant. Now, the purpose of these video episodes that we'll post every month during 2024, the purpose is not just to tell a woman's story, although her story needs to be told. The purpose of this is really to reflect on an amazing testimony of what God did in one person's life. And I'm sharing this with you. Many of you work with children. You work in church ministries with young people, with little ones, with teenagers, family issues where there's real dysfunction, a lot of pain, and a lot of suffering. You're dealing with it every day. I want you to see what God did through my mother's life, who was really raised in a dysfunctional environment. And so let's begin. She was born in Merced, California. You know the date, September 23rd, 1924. So this was just the year of the Depression in the United States. Her people were very, very poor. She was the 10th of 11 children born to this very poor couple. In fact, later, my mother would say, in referring to my father's family, who were also very poor, she said, and it's a cliche in English, that we're as poor as Job's turkey. Have you ever heard that? So they would laugh, the Osborns would laugh and say, oh, we're as poor as Job's turkey. My mother would say, our people were so poor, we didn't know Job had a turkey. So it's really hard for us to understand what poverty was in the early 20s in the United States. Now, she was in California, and so her family the children would all be on the back of a trailer pulled by some car or a tractor, and they would go from field to field picking fruit. So the fruit cops, you could go across California, find something ready to pick all the time. And that's the way they made a living. Very, very poor. She was born into a family that today we would call them not even agnostics. You wouldn't even call them atheists, because those people have made a decision not to believe in God. Her people never heard there was a God. So we might even call them pagan, but yet most pagans have some type of worship context, whether it's worshiping a tree or a crocodile or an idol. Her people had none of that, no concept that there's anything out there that's spiritual, no concept of a spiritual world. The only thing they had, we would call it superstition. So there were things that governed their life, such as if a black cat crosses your path, you're going to have bad luck. Or in certain conditions, something happens and you know bad luck is coming, you throw salt over your shoulder. or you never walk under a leaning ladder. These strange things like this that maybe some of you know about, maybe from your parents or grandparents, but they were common. Now, there are probably other superstitions today that I can't relate to. I'm telling my mother's story. And so this was the concept that her people had of the things that influence your life. It's happenstance and it's superstition. My grandfather had told my mother that when you die, you just die like a dog. There is no life after death. It happens that when she was young, her grandmother, her father's mother, lived with them. I don't remember her name, but there was a rocking chair that she would sit in. That was just, her place as the grandmother. Well, it happened one night. My grandparents, and that great-grandmother, they were discussing the possibility of life after death. They were curious about it, and they wondered what might happen. And so they agreed that whoever died first, that one would come back and tell the other two what happens after you die. Now, I hope you can grasp the simplicity of their spiritual understanding, because this is the atmosphere in which Daisy Washburn was born. And when you look at the way her story is going to unfold, you'll wonder, how in the world did God do this? And one other thing I want to tell you in this episode, my mother, being the 10th of 11, she was very devoted to her mother. Big family, busy family, a lot of older brothers, just lots going on. And so she clung to her mother, loved her mother. Her mother was killed in a train automobile accident when my mother was 8 years old. My grandmother was 45 at the time. And so in that accident, a train hit the car. It killed not only my grandmother, but also one of my mother's older sisters. This became a crisis time in my mother's life. Now, I'm going to tell more of her story in the next episode, but the point I want you to take home from this: never ignore children that are coming from dysfunctional homes. When you hear what happened to her other siblings because of this crisis and the crisis of their home environment, you will see there's a vital ministry in just hearing children, being observant, being a safe place for them, because the Washburn home was a violent home. My grandfather was a violent man. The children were afraid of him. He would come home drunk and would beat the family, beat the mother. It was just a very dysfunctional home. But my mother survived. Why did she survive? How did she survive? We'll pick that up next month. But I just want you to begin thinking about the children that you touch, that you watch, some of the misbehaved children, some of those that are angry, that just seem hard to control and you don't know why. Think about what they might be experiencing at home and in other circumstances. So we'll continue the story of Daisy Washburn Osborn in the next episode. And remember, the story continues because God gets the glory.